You're standing in line at a high-end sandwich shop. It's 12:15 p.m., you're starving, and the line is moving fast. You look at the menu, $15 for a turkey club. 10 years ago, that price would have made you physically recoil. You would have thought $15 for bread and turkey. I could buy a whole bird for that. You would have reached into your wallet, felt the thinness of the remaining bills, and maybe, just maybe, walked out and grabbed something cheaper. But today is different. You don't even look at the price on the little swivel screen. You don't even wait for the cashier to finish the sentence. You just double-click the side button on your iPhone, see the little Face ID animation, and hold your phone near the terminal. Beep. That's it. In less than 2 seconds, $15 has left your net worth. It felt like nothing. It felt like waving a magic wand. You didn't feel the loss of the money. You felt the success of the technology. You grab your sandwich, you head back to the office, and by 2 p.m., that transaction has completely evaporated from your conscious mind. But here's the problem. Your bank account doesn't have amnesia. Fast forward to Saturday morning. You're lying in bed, scrolling through your banking app, and you see a list of transactions that looks like a receipt for a life you don't remember living. $8 here, $12 there, $24 for a quick drink after work. You start doing the math in your head, and your stomach starts to do that slow, heavy sink. You realize you've spent $300 this week on nothing. Just stuff. Just convenience. You aren't a bad person. You aren't stupid with money. You've just been caught in the digital payment trap. And today, I want to show you why that frictionless beep is the most expensive sound you will ever hear. My name is Mike, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible psychological triggers that dictate whether you end up wealthy or broke. If you're someone who feels like you're making a good salary, maybe even a great one, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck and you can't figure out where the leak is, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, we need to have a serious talk about friction. In physics, friction is what slows things down. In finance, friction is what keeps you rich. And the world's biggest tech companies have spent billions of dollars to remove every single ounce of it from your life. Let's start with a reality check. Your brain was not designed for digital currency. Evolutionarily speaking, humans understand loss when something physical leaves our hands. There's a famous concept in behavioral economics called the pain of paying. Researchers at MIT and Carnegie Mellon actually put people in fMRI machines to see what happens in the brain when we buy things. Here's what most people don't realize. When you pay with physical cash, your brain activates the insula. That is the same part of the brain that lights up when you stub your toe or smell something rotten. Literally, spending cash causes your brain physical pain. But this is where it gets really interesting. When those same researchers looked at people using credit cards or digital tap-to-pay systems, the insula stayed completely silent. The brain didn't register a loss. Instead, the nucleus accumbens, the reward center, lit up because you were getting a new item. Digital payments have effectively performed a lobotomy on your financial survival instincts. You are getting all of the dopamine of the gain with 0% of the biological pain of the cost. According to a landmark study by Dun and Bradstreet, people spend 12% to 18% more when using a credit card instead of cash. But when you move to tap to pay, where you don't even have to swipe or enter a PIN, that number jumps even higher. Some studies from the Journal of Consumer Research suggest that frictionless payments can increase total spending by nearly 30%. Think about that. If you spend $2,000 a month on life, groceries, gas, dining, fun, and you're using tap to pay for everything, you are potentially overspending by $600 every single month simply because your brain doesn't think the money is real. Now you might be thinking, Mike, I'm different. I'm a rational person. I check my budget every day. A beep isn't going to trick me. Okay, let's look at the math. Let's look at the salami slicing of your wealth. If you use cash, you have a physical budgeting terminal in your pocket. If you have a $50 bill and you spend $40, you have a physical $10 bill left. You can feel the lightness. You know with 100% certainty that your purchasing power has been reduced. But with digital payments, every transaction is an isolated event. You tap for a $6 coffee. The screen says, approved. You tap for a $15 lunch. Approved. You tap for a $4 parking meter. Approved. Here's what most people don't realize. Because the friction is gone, your frequency of transactions increases. You don't just spend more per item, you buy more items. Let's run a real-world scenario. Let's say Cash Mike and Digital Mike both go to a big box store. Cash Mike has $100 in his pocket. He sees a cool new coffee mug for $15. He thinks, if I buy this, I only have $85 for the stuff I actually came for. He puts it back. Digital Mike sees the same mug. He doesn't have a pool of money to compare it to. He just has a phone that says approved. He buys the mug. He buys the extra snacks. He buys the upgraded HDMI cable. At the end of the year, that 30% tap-to-pay tax adds up to $7,200, assuming that $2,000 monthly spend. If you took that $7,200 and put it into a low-cost index fund for 30 years, at an 8% return, that frictionless convenience just cost you $815,000 Tom, retirement wealth. You're paying nearly $1 million for the privilege of not having to reach for your wallet. Is that a trade you're actually willing to make? This is where it gets really interesting. Why are Apple, Google, and your bank so obsessed with making it easy to pay? It's called the velocity of money. The faster you spend, the more they make. When you use cash, the bank doesn't see a dime of that transaction. But when you tap, the tech company gets data. The payment processor gets a 2.5% fee. The bank gets to track your habits. They have turned your spending into a high-speed data commodity. But Mike, you say, I get 2% cash back. I'm actually making money by tapping. Look, this is the biggest lie in personal finance. The credit card companies are not charities. They have the smartest mathematicians in the world on their payroll. If they are giving you 2% back, it's because they know, statistically and psychologically, that having that card in your digital wallet is going to make you spend way more than 2% extra. You are stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. You're bragging about your $40 in monthly rewards while ignoring the $500 in phantom spending that only happened because the payment was frictionless. It's like a casino giving you a free steak dinner. They don't do it because they like you. They do it because they know if you stay in the building, the math eventually wins. Tap to pay turns the entire world into a casino. Think of your financial life like a giant bucket of water. Your job is to fill it up so that one day you can stop working and live off the water. In the old days, spending money was like taking a giant ladle and scooping water out. It was a conscious, heavy movement. You saw the water level drop. Digital payments are like taking a drill and making 500 microscopic holes in the bottom of the bucket. You can't see the water leaving, you can't hear it, but at the end of the month, the bucket is empty and you're standing there wondering where it went. I didn't take any big scoops, you cry. No, you didn't. You just let the frictionless holes drain you dry. Now, I'm not a Luddite. I'm not telling you to go bury gold bars in your backyard. and stop using the internet. But you have to reintroduce strategic friction. If you want to stop being a victim of the digital payment trap, you have to make it harder for yourself to spend money. Here is the 3-step protocol. First, the untap protocol. Go into your Apple Wallet or Google Pay right now. Remove your primary debit card. If you have to pay for something, force yourself to use a physical card that requires you to insert a chip and enter a PIN. Those extra 10 seconds of work are often enough to snap your brain out of its dopamine trance. Second, the 24-hour cart rule. For any online purchase that isn't a recurring bill, you're not allowed to use one-click buy. You must add it to the cart, close the tab, and wait 24 hours. If you still want it tomorrow, go for it. But you'll find that 70% of the time, the need was actually just a temporary digital itch. Third, the weekly cash reset. For one category, just one, start using physical cash again. I recommend dining and drinks. That's usually where the most phantom spending happens. If you have $150 in your wallet for the week, and it's Friday night, and you only have $20 left, you aren't going to buy that extra round of overpriced cocktails. The physical reality of the cash will act as your financial guardrail. Here's what most people don't realize. Financial freedom isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much agency you have over your own choices. When you tap to pay, you aren't making a choice. You're following a script written by a UX designer in Silicon Valley who was hired specifically to make you forget that money is finite. When you reintroduce friction, you are reclaiming your agency. You are saying, I am the boss of this dollar. This dollar represents an hour of my life or a piece of my future freedom, and I'm not going to let it disappear into a radio frequency without my permission. Now you might be thinking, but Mike, cash is dirty. It's inconvenient. It's annoying. Yes, that's exactly the point. Inconvenience is the cure for overspending. We live in a world that worships convenience. But have you ever noticed that convenience is almost always a euphemism for expensive? DoorDash is convenient. It's also 40% more expensive than picking up the food. Amazon Prime is convenient. It also makes you buy things you never knew existed. Tap to pay is convenient. It also costs you $800,000 in retirement. At some point, you have to ask yourself, how much of my future am I willing to sacrifice for a slightly faster checkout experience? Look, the goal of this channel is to help you build a life you don't need a vacation from. But you can't build that life if you're constantly bleeding out from 1,000 digital cuts. Your money is your life energy. It's your time. It's your sweat. Treat it with the respect it deserves. Stop letting the beep make your decisions for you. I want you to try something. For the next 7 days, I want you to go analog. No Apple Pay, no Google Pay, no tapping, just physical cards or physical cash. I want you to pay attention to how it feels in your chest when you actually have to wait for the transaction to process. I want you to see if your spending naturally drops. I'm betting it will. If you've ever looked at your bank statement at the end of the month and felt like someone must have stolen your identity because the numbers don't make sense, let me know in the comments. What is the one convenience that you know is costing you too much? Let's talk about it. And if you want to see the math on more of these hidden taxes on your wealth, check out my other videos on the lifestyle creep trap. Thanks for watching. Reintroduce some friction into your life, keep your brain's pain sensors active, and I'll see you in the next one.